Bonjour, je m'appelle Brian Hurst. Je suis ici avec vous aujourd'hui, and I have the great honor of speaking to tonight's International Digital Emmy Pioneer Award winner today, Anthony Zuiker. So before we begin, we're going to take a little bit of look back at Anthony's work.
The only thing we can count on is the evidence.
Its reach spans the globe.
I'm gonna try to help you figure this out.
Its popularity crosses borders.
Just keeps getting better and better.
It's no mystery why the CSI franchise is a television phenomenon.
Ready to be shocked?
At this point, I'm not sure that's possible.
For more than a decade, millions of viewers have followed the evidence.
This is just the beginning.
The world is watching.
Eyes are going to be on every move we make.
They already are.
Who wants cookies?
I will never let you leave Silverwood without me.
Are you in here?
Sorry.
It's so nice to see all of you again.
We have you electronically dead to rights. Cyber treason, documented espionage, incriminating email history, money transfers.
You're going to jail.
Donna, somebody is framing me.
I'm remembering your face. Never want to forget it. I own your life and can take it away with the push of a button.
What's going on? The girl's on the run. What's your next move?
Disappear. I need your help.
Hell no.
16 minutes ago, the Bank of Hong Kong received a zero-day virus attack.
Whoever did this is a poet.
It's Gustav.
Gustav Dobrev?
How is this even possible? He was extradited back to the Ukraine.
Let me take you in and we'll prove
No,
it.
we don't have time.
Don't make me do my job.
I started this. I'm gonna end it. If I die, I die.
That was the previews.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the International Digital Emmy Award Pioneer winner for 2013, Master Storyteller, Anthony E. Zuiker.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Anthony, what a pleasure. And
Thank you so much.
And just watching your work. Actually, let me pull out my phone here because I found a little something this morning that I wanted to start off our session with. Because I really want you to walk away knowing that you too can be a pioneer. In 1990, Anthony Zuiker was just another Hollywood wannabe, balding, overweight guy driving a tram in Las Vegas for $8 an hour, telling his friends about the screenplay he was writing, dreaming of fame. He'd grown up in Vegas where his mother worked as a blackjack table at a casino while his father flitted back and forth from investment schemes that didn't seem to go anywhere. His friends figured Anthony wouldn't either. How do you get from there to here? So I just want to start out, Anthony, because no one starts out to be a pioneer. Some people, they just start out and they know where they want to go. Tell me where that started for you. When did you know you were a storyteller?
Well, it's funny. I was 6 years old, and I was in my pool in Las Vegas, and I was doing laps. I remember I came up from the water, and I said to something came over me, and I said two things to myself. One, everybody but me was a robot. Like, I was the only human being on the planet, and I don't know why I thought of that. And then I always knew at the age of 6 that I would do something significant.
When did you start writing?
Well, when I was in probably 5th grade at a Catholic school called St. Anne's, we had our first creative writing assignment for creative writing, and it was called Rocky Road. And I remember we were learning cursive and all that kind of business, and I really took my time to write this one page about Rocky Road, which is a guy who was climbing on top of this fictitious mountain of ice cream called Rocky Road. And when the nun handed back my paper, it had a big red A. And when I saw the A on there, that was really the beginning of my quest to work really, really hard in school and achieve excellence from that one piece of paper.
So I want to, CSI, that was the break for you.
Right.
Can you tell us how that happened and what brought where did you learn crime expertise? Where did you, no cops in your family, right? Excuse me, police. No police in your family, no.
Well, the funny part was there was a show back in the day, you might have remembered it, called Quincy. And I loved that show, it was fantastic. And then I was watching a show called The New Detectives on Discovery Channel. And in that particular show was an episode about a Los Angeles Raider cheerleader who was killed by a photographer. And when they brought the Jeep back into the evidence area, they pulled a long blonde hair follicle out of the headrest of the Jeep, which signified that a hair had been yanked out in a struggle. And if you want to take your thumb and first finger and yank out
everybody,
you yank out the eyebrow hair, you'll see this little tag cell or seed attached because the hair was yanked out on purpose. And I learned in that particular episode that the body was the perfect specimen for crime solving. And that's how the idea of CSI was born, just on that one show.
You know, it's so hard to pitch things in Hollywood, let alone to pitch to be a pioneer. CSI, very successful franchise, we have CSI Miami, CSI New York. And now, I mean, you've built this empire, you're moving on to other things, but it had to start with one pitch. How did that go?
Well, it was funny because CSI was my first TV script I've ever written in my life, my first attempt. And
no training in writing for television?
No, not at all. I think one of my agents bought me this book that had a sample script from this show called Fantasy Island that I was reading over.
Well, that show was a crime, so.
Yeah. So I remember I went to ABC, and I walked in with the pitch, and they said, no, they passed. And I was so offended. I'm like, well, you're not going to buy this? This is really, really cool. And so I built my production company around that incident, and now my production company is called Dare to Pass, with the philosophy that if you pass on this, somebody else may pick it up. So then it was October. I just finished a DiCaprio movie called Wannabe, and literally walked into CBS, and normally there are 10 people in the room to watch you pitch a particular show. In this instance, it was myself, Jonathan Lippman from Bruckheimer Television, and Nina Tassler, who at that point was the head of drama development for CBS. And I walked in there, and I remember right before I walked in, Jonathan was like, if you don't sell it here, it's dead. Because Fox didn't want to hear it, NBC didn't want to hear it, it was too late in the season, it was October, but thankfully, CBS takes pitches year-round. And I was so defeated, and I walked in, I just shut my eyes, and I was like, it's called Crime Scene Investigation, and and I opened up my eyes, and she was like, I love it. She's like, we're going younger with this brand new show we just bought called Survivor. That's how long ago it was. And she looked me in the eye, and she said, if you write me a great script, I promise you I'll fight my boss upstairs, Les Menvez, get on the air. Now, I don't know if she tells everybody that, but as a 30-year-old kid, I'm like, wow, great. So I wrote that script in 3 days. And we probably changed about 5 words, and it got shot and debuted October 16th of 2000, the number 7 show in the country.
And now it's formatted all over the world.
Right. And
not just in English. I mean, the show has been sold, but it's being done in different languages.
And CBS, they would call me and say, if you could retain just 80% of the Fugitives ratings with Tim Daly back then, because the big shows back then were The Fugitive and Bette Midler. Imagine that. And we far surpassed that. And it was on a Friday. It was on Friday at 9 in the States.
Oh, dead time.
Yeah, Friday at 9, Saturday at 9, pretty much in America means it's like graveyard.
Wow. So just before we move on to the innovation part, which, and I'm not saying CSI wasn't innovative because it is, and it wraps your attention, it holds your attention, and you've got the audience solving the crime with you. But from what I know about you, you are exceedingly, or were at the time to build this franchise, exceedingly hands-on. Like you were on top of every script, on top of every story arc. It's not just like you stood back and let other people do it. You were very hands-on.
No, we were in it. CSI being my first TV script means that you are learning television while you are writing television and producing television. I had no idea what I was doing beyond the first episode. So we all jumped in at a dream team, Carol Mendelsohn and Ann Donahue, and we all jumped in and wrote these great scripts. And to write a CSI is it really is a different mentality. It's a different muscle in your head because it's such a procedural. It's kind of like putting a crime game into a script. Hiding the ball, having the evidence speak for itself to drive the story forward, hiding suspects, doing flashbacks and recreations, a lot of influence from a movie called Three Kings, where the bullet goes into the cadaver, and just really broke every rule in television. Doing flashbacks, recreations just aren't something you do in television. It's considered a crutch.
Right.
We broke every rule on TV. I didn't know any better, so I guess that's a blessing.
But it's also just so intelligent. I mean, you really give the audience credit. I mean, you let them play, you let them participate.
Well, the rule of thumb for the audience always is to give them 30% and let them work for the extra 70. And if you can just do that successfully and make them work, when you watch CSI, it's a little bit of work and you're kind of following along and trying to figure it out before it happens, and you are the detective as the audience. And we took that same philosophy into Whodunit, even today.
Well, we'll get to Whodunit for a second because that's again very pioneering. All the technology that you see in CSI. Have you always been fascinated by technology? Because this leap forward, we're now going into Dark Prophecy in level 26, which is an interactive novel in the respect that it was one of the very first for the iPad, one of the very first books that actually integrated video into the narrative, and also the very first crossover from that into CSI. So it actually took the main character that was established and crossed him over from the book into CSI. Who said, let's do an iPad book, let's do an interactive book, or was that something you thought of on your own, or?
Well, that's what happens to writers when you have writer strikes. You tend to get extra creative. I always want to write. I love literature. I mean, that's why I love France. I mean, to be here in France, and this is my first time in Cannes. It's just such a literature-based country, and I love books, and I want to always have a book published. So I thought, well, why not stop there? Why not do a book and a movie and a social website and merge all the experiences into one and utilize the power of technology and take it on the go, vis-a-vis the tablet or the iTouch or the iPad. That's where it all started. Back in the olden days when I did level 26, you'd have to read the book and then stop and log in and put a code in.
Yep.
And then continue. Who reads like that, right? So when the tablets came, it was wonderful because you could literally, like you saw up there, you could be reading the book and then suddenly a gunshot goes off or there's scary music or you're poisoned and it knows how fast you read, and when you want to watch the movie, just press a button, the movie comes up right there. It's all in one experience on the go.
It seems to me that you have this half storyteller, half social scientist in the respect that you know how people will interact and what will flip the switches so that they go into the content. You said that CSI was like putting together a game, but you were assuming the quote, the chess game, and you're anticipating the moves of the audience, or you're leading the audience on, which is the essence of interactive and immersive storytelling. So a bit ahead of your time.
Well, I think it was based on the technology. It wasn't quite there, but the brain power was. We had the vision to do the book before technology caught up, which is sort of like where we want to be. I think for me, it's always just trying to do things that are inspiring, surprising, and trailblazing new ground that keeps me excited about this business.
Great. Cybergeddon.
Yes.
10 languages, 25 countries, the first time a brand is integrated as character really successfully in semantic, being a story in Cybergeddon, not packaged the way you'd package a television series, and certainly not told. I mean, you're talking about, I'm rushing ahead because we're running out of time, you're talking about 10 episodes, 9 minute per episodes. The end of each episode is a cliffhanger. Did you think about the structure of that? How did,
certainly. Overthought it. You know, the number one rule in doing content for the web is make sure the content is specific to the device. You just can't move television over to the web and vice versa. It doesn't quite work. So we had to make sure that we reinvented motion picture storytelling, futuristic storytelling for the web in terms of how we broke the story. Hard in, hard middle, hard outs, cliffhang, 10-minute episodes times 9 for a 90-minute movie. We knew we could sell it as a movie globally in territories such as France. But we had to be able to give it a rhythm and a pace that felt very internet with the power of scale.
Well, and you've seen other examples where the episodes kind of work on the internet as in standalone, but when you put them all together in 90 minutes, it doesn't really work. This worked in 90 minutes. Also, if you haven't seen it, cybergeddon.yahoo.com, and it's amazing, the production values, the performances, it's like first class. It's like really pioneering that medium. And because Symantec, Norton Antivirus, is so integrated, were they in the writer's room with you? Was it discussed how the technology would be introduced?
They were there for all the big research, and they were there to guide us to make sure that everything was authentic. That's our big word today, authenticity. And we went to them with just a pitch and a philosophy that we're going to take a 90-minute movie, we're going to bake in Symantec for brands, we're going to have a character from Norton Antivirus, we're going to utilize all of your research, and told them the value of what that will do in terms of having a shelf life of 30 years. You think about
a global platform for their brand.
Well, think about a $1 million contribution. It was $1 million for a 30-second spot in season 2 of CSI. $1 million for 30 seconds.
In the U.S. alone.
U.S. alone. Comes and goes, never seen again, never seen on DVD, DVR, nothing. For that same $1 million for like a Symantec, is you're going to be able to get a 90-minute motion picture, brand integration, a shelf life for Netflix, Epix, domestic, foreign, home DVR. There's so much shelf life for that, and you can't cut it out of the movie because it is part of the movie, versus a 30-second spot that goes away in a blink of an eye with one phone call, one putting the kid to bed, dogs running around. It really is it's a simple example, but a great example of how brands could come into storytelling and get big time mileage.
And this is why, I had the honor and the privilege to nominate you. We get to nominate people as members of the Academy. And the business model is pioneering. The way the story is told is pioneering. The way it's distributed is pioneering. So all of that represented like next-gen storytelling, and now people are actually looking at the template that was Cybergeddon for how they can produce content. I know we are, for how they can produce content. Let's move on to Whodunit, which is a reality. The audience really does solve the crime, not the contestants solve the crime along with the audience. Tell us a little about Whodunit.
Well, it's funny because I've been trying to crack the sort of like CSI competition show for years, and I've never quite wrapped my head around it perfectly. It was called Crime Scene. That didn't quite work. So my boss, Paul Lee at ABC, had this show called Dead Celebrity that they've been working on for 18 months. They couldn't figure out.
Dead Celebrity.
It's called Dead Celebrity. And the whole logo was, there's only one good celebrity, which is a dead celebrity or something like that. So they brought me in, and Paul Lee says, well, if Anthony Zuiker can't figure out this crime show, nobody can. So they brought me in, we had dinner at Kate Manalini's, and literally I was just educating my partner, Chris Abrego, of 51 Minds, about what CSI is, and he taught me what he's doing. We broke the gameplay. And now it's on, we have 9 episodes starting June 23rd on ABC, right after Wife Swap. And basically the philosophy is you have 13 people that live in this beautiful multi-million-dollar manor. They have no idea why they're there. They all check in their rooms, they go for a nice cocktail party, and out of nowhere, someone dies by some big, huge crime production thing that I can't tell you. And now the butler comes out, good evening, and tells them that there's a killer amongst them. They have to attempt to solve the crime. They can go to 3 areas: the crime scene, which you see here, last known whereabouts, or the morgue. But only one area. And they have to swap information. Then there's a big final challenge, which gives a clue, like the murder weapon. They have to pitch the killer in a room, their theory of what happened. If you do good, you're spared. If you do bad, you're scared. And at the end of the episode, the final bottom two or whatever ends up dying in a cruel death, which kicks off the next episode. So wonderfully intelligent, fun, caramel popcorn CSI fan show. Should be a big summer
And you
hit.
said you're writing all the episodes at once because of the
God.
way the clues and the...
Well, it's funny because I have Liz Devine, who's a real CSI. I have Trey Calloway, who was a writer of mine with CSI New York, and myself in a room breaking these episodes. And the shorthand is so scientific that a newcomer's like, what are you guys talking about? Gas chromatograph, mass spectrometer, GMAS spec. What is that? And we'll throw evidence on the board. So they've written the first 8 scripts. I'm rewriting all 9 and writing the finale as we speak as of an hour ago. So we're enjoying con, and we're working, and we're talking to great folks.
And finally, Wonderland, a new take on Alice in Wonderland that is going to be on NBC. Can you talk a little bit about that? Another pioneering take.
Well, Whit Anderson is a wonderful writer in America and wanted to do a take on Alice in Wonderland to where Alice was the evil Blue Queen, and Clara was a 19-year-old woman from Detroit who works in a crappy diner who has the worst day of her life, and she ends up doing something bad and gets sent to Wonderland, and she finds out that her father's been there the entire time, and that's why he disappeared, and she has to get her whole family back, and she has to rise against the revolution to earn her family back in the world of Wonderland. And it's a wonderfully, beautifully done script, and Sean Cassidy is our showrunner, EP partner, so it should be a lot of fun.
When you look at where technology is going, like, we're back there, you and I are supposed to be talking to each other, and we're both on our phones, and the way that brands now are about story, you hear the word storytelling everywhere. Now it's like a huge deal. Every brand says they're a storyteller. Every wannabe says they're a storyteller. You hear people pitching all these cross-media projects, and what I get from you, Anthony, is it's not about the technology for you unless it's forwarding the story.
Well, this is true. I mean, the number one rule of writing characters in drama would be, what does the characters need? So the number one rule for us in technology right now is there's a need for brands to tell stories because media has changed so much. So, our business at Dare to Pass, our slate's about 80% web and tech and about 20% day job television. That's how busy we are in this sort of tech world, because the demand is so huge to say, hey, we don't find a lot of value in the 30-second spot anymore. Help us tell stories that have a shelf life, that have scale. And we're doing stuff with DuPont and Samsung and all these great companies that just need to reach out and tell stories because they can't get the word across otherwise. And we can do it at a fraction of a price, which has got, garners great results.
And still, it is about the essence of the story.
Sure. Well, it's so fun to take a company and go, what do you want to do? And they're like, I don't know, you tell us. We come back with this great storyline. We're doing something for Dr. Pepper right now also. And to come back and create characters and bring a product to life and see it in a different way is really, really exciting.
When you look at technology, usually my contention is that technology traditionally has been designed for the storytellers, not with us. And that collaboration of how to use technology to reach the audience, to engage them. Who informs you? How do you discover? I know you have 3 boys. How do you discover what new technologies are on the horizon? Like exactly what happened with the iPad. You were first in there with that first one-of-a-kind, first to break ground there. How do you discover?
It's my business to read as much as I can and play with all the toys and best I can in terms of iPads and that kind of thing and the Galaxy. And I think once I understand the utility of what a tablet can do, then I begin to think story. So for me, it's really utility first and story second, rather than story first, utility second. So if the utility can do certain things in the tablet, then it automatically inspires me to wrap stories around it in a different way, because I want the audience to be surprised when they're interacting with the storytelling.
If there are storytellers today that, we get a lot of pitches, I'm sure you hear a lot of pitches, people want to talk to you about crime right away, but, a lot of times they are about the form factor and the what, and they say, I've got this amazing story and it takes place on this one, and you can find this on the web, and then you can find this on your mobile phone, and you go, what would you tell those people? Because a lot of times they just come in and they're creating for where they think the audience is or what they're doing in their lives. What could be the potential piece of advice that could change their perspective?
I'd probably say those are all really good ideas. Let's start over again. I think going into storytelling, especially with a brand, there needs to be a comprehensive philosophy about what you're doing in terms of audience interactivity, what story you want to tell, what the client's need is inside the storytelling, what product you may be pushing or not pushing, how subtle the client wants to be or in front the client wants to be. Then you'll go back and really, every scenario will be, there's no cookie cutter philosophy about how to tell stories through a brand. Everyone's a little bit different. It's all very custom and thoughtfully done in a way to where it gets the maximum traction.
But it's seamless with you, Anthony. I mean, you look at Cybergeddon, and that brand is so well integrated that it's an afterthought. It's so well integrated, you don't think, oh, well, there's semantic, and look, there's not outright product placement. And so the way to organically integrate not just technology, but brand, can that be taught, or is that?
Well, I think that the teaching's in the doing, right? I mean, you watch Cybergeddon, and there's one good litmus test about how to do it right. About to honor your partner. Sometimes in the movie, it's a bit of a Norton show for a couple of seconds, but again, that's the dance you do when somebody writes you a check for millions of dollars, and you have to honor the client. And the press may knock you and say, oh, it's an infomercial because it showed a poster in the background. But again, it's all give and take, right? We try to do the best movie we can, surprise the audience, make the brand happy. They are financing the picture, so we have to honor that, obviously. And then we do other ancillary content called Zips, which are short for Zuiker clips, which are 6 1-minute episodes that detour out in the movie and inside the movie of every character. So we could have extra 70, 80 pieces of content on YouTube globally that are sort of like PR soldiers for the movie. It's just a brand, just a philosophy of how to tell stories.
We haven't even, it's a shame our time's so short because there's a whole, how does the audience start to create content for the things that you create, and how do they get involved? You create a story world, they get further involved. I guess we'll have to leave that for the next chapter.
Yes.
So just one final question. Anthony, so many great storytellers in the past old business models have been held hostage by the studio or the network. You don't hold on to your rights. You get paid for what you create, and it sits there. Maybe it's into syndication. In this new model, are storytellers going to be able to hold on to their own IP and share in the money with the people that finance it, but still control the rights of storytellers?
No question about it. I mean, there's nothing better than finding brand money and doing a great movie, and the brand's happy, and you walk away with a little bit of money. And more importantly, the negative is yours. And
so is the audience. And there's no one between you and the audience. And that last thing, now you say there are Anthony Zuiker fans. There are J.J. Abrams fans.
Sure.
Damon Lindelof is in conversation with his audience. Dan Harmon is in direct conversation. John Chu in direct conversation with his audience. So now there's nothing standing between the storyteller and the audience. Does that scare you, excite you? Is it?
No, that's where you want to be. I mean, I think the more you can control your own destiny, and the more you can go global, and the more you can, own and control creatively as a true artist, is what we all are saying under our breath in Hollywood. We all want that autonomy, we all want the ownership, and we all want to be able to do the stories that we love for our audience and speak directly to them. And that's what the power of the internet and what this whole conference is all about, which is ownership and freedom of expression. It's what this whole country was built on, is the artistry. I had dinner last night at La Colombo d'Or.
La Colombe d'Or.
Yeah, with all of these, we would, I guess legend has it that the famous artists would go there and they would eat, and then they'd pay you by putting a painting on the wall. It's unbelievable. It's such a great country.
I get that you're enjoying France immensely.
It's fantastic. Too much foie gras.
Well, I want to thank you for your time today. I wish I could talk to you for hours.
Thank you.
So what's coming up is Whodunit, which I guess will be an international format soon enough.
Yep.
And Wonderland, which is probably going to be sold at this time. Well, probably in the fall they'll be here selling Wonderland.
Hopefully, yeah.
So, Anthony Zuiker, congratulations. Tonight you will receive the Pioneer Prize.
Thank you.
Well earned, well deserved. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And Anthony, I look forward to your future.
Thank you very much. Thank you.